Good morning. Welcome to your Tuesday morning, early morning intuitive guidance. I'm Dr. Bonnie Nussbaum, and we have an opportunity to revisit a book we haven't visited with in a long time, Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication by Sharon Ellison. And we've been making our way through slowly and steadily, but it's been, I'd say, several months since we did a little section in the book, so glad to revisit it. There we go. Oh, someone's popping on. Good morning, Lucy. Welcome, welcome. Glad to see everybody starting to mosey their way here. Good morning, Deb. Welcome. Thank you for the sunshine. I don't think we're going to see much sunshine. Good morning, Abigail. Glad you're here. The fires from Canada are again wafting smoke our direction, so we're supposed to have dreadful air quality. Good morning, Linda, for quite some time again. So I was hoping to be able to take the dog out for a long walk today at my brother's, but I think the air quality is pretty bad, so probably not going to happen today. Anyway, those of you who are just popping on, if you have your own copy of Taking the War Out of Our Words, that's what we're going to be working with today. We have a little section that I think is going to be really powerful. Good morning, Peggy. Glad you are here. So we've been talking about what just preceded the part that we're doing now is looking at consequences. How do we make predictions just very matter-of-factly? Good morning, Judy. Welcome. Very matter-of-factly about what we perceive is going to happen if someone takes a certain path. Good morning, Cindy. Welcome. Glad you're here. And doing so in a very matter-of-fact manner. And detaching from the outcome. The other person still gets to make their choice. But we have then made it clear what we believe is going to happen and what our choice will be at that juncture. If you do X, I will do Y, kind of a deal. Good morning, Gwen. And it just being very matter of fact. Good morning, CJ. Welcome. And not invested in whatever they choose to do. You've created a win-win for yourself because whatever they choose to do, you've already laid out what you're going to do. This particular section is called Monitoring Our Own Intentions. So for those of you who just jumped on, we're doing Taking the War Out of Our Words, The Art of Powerful Non-Defensive Communication, which we haven't seen this book in a while, Sharon Ellison. So I'm really glad to be back to this part. It's a couple of pages, but I think it's going to make most of us wince a little bit. So it's Monitoring Our Own Intentions, and it's page 218 for those of you who have the book and would like to follow along. So let's just open ourselves up, ready to receive this message. A couple of nice deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Oh, I can really feel my ribs today. I had a massage yesterday to work on the ribs. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And she said there was a big raised area on my back. I don't know if it was fluid or inflammation or what, but yeah, I was crooked. So much better, but yeah, can feel that we did the work yesterday. So just nice deep breaths, settling in, opening your heart space, ready to truly receive whatever part of this might chime for you. So here we go. Monitoring our own intentions. Once we slow down and prepare to approach a situation non-defensively, it is still important to consciously monitor our own intentions. We are all quite capable of deluding ourselves into thinking we have crystal clear motives, ha ha ha, while allowing tainted ones to slip into our interactions. I see two attitudes that often cause people difficulty when they practice being non-defensive. You ready for this? Number one, now I have the ultimate weapon. One woman said to me gleefully, "Aha! The next time he says that to me, I'll be prepared." Unfortunately, her tone and attitude suggested that she was still more invested in winning a power struggle than in preparing to keep her integrity. Good morning, Carolyn. Welcome. We are doing Taking the War Out of Our Words. So again, Pay attention to what are your thoughts about laying out your if-then statement, the consequences, what you see coming if someone chooses a certain path. All right? So first place we can trip is, now I have the ultimate weapon. Second place we can trip, others will certainly disarm in response to my non-defensive approach. So we're expecting a particular outcome rather than allowing the outcome to be whatever it is. So she says, the danger here is that if one has that expectation, others will probably sense it and resist. And from there, the power struggle can accelerate. So I'll just give you my little example this morning. It's shot day. Once a month, TJ gets a shot to help with not developing more arthritis. So as I'm bending down to put the leash on him, he senses I'm about to do something else, and he turns around and takes off. I'm wise enough to know, don't buck the system. Don't try to make him now go outside so that you can give him the shot when he's in the doorway. Wait a while. Do something else. When he has to go to the bathroom, he'll head for the door. I'll be able to get the shot in him. But when I had the expectation, he picked up. There's something more going on here, and I don't think I'm going to like it, so I'm heading the other way. So, going back, the danger here is that if one has the expectation that the other person is going to go along because we've now created a non-defensive statement, and they pick that up, they can resist. With our expectation thwarted, the first person feels frustrated that the new tool didn't succeed. If we let an increased sense of personal empowerment and the excitement about communicating more effectively become distorted in this way, it is too easy to slip back into the war model framework, and perhaps we have not yet fully left it anyway. Here, the bottom line is still them against me. Because we often experience an almost magnetic pull back into the power struggle pit, yes, he is a smart dog, it is possible to use non-defensive methods, be more effective than we have been previously, and still walk away feeling the pleasure of having won a battle. And that's not what we're going for here. That's not the paradigm anymore. We're letting go of the I must win thing. Once, when I went into a small neighborhood grocery, I couldn't remember something I was going to buy. An employee gave me permission to use the phone to call home for a reminder. While I was on the phone, another employee ducked under the phone line and went behind the deli counter. After I hung up, she said, in an accusatory tone, "Next time you want to use the phone, why don't you ask first?" I was completely taken aback, particularly because the employees there are usually friendly. I was mute for a minute while I thwarted my initial defensive urge to retort, "I already did ask." My mind raced, and I asked her a question about what I thought motivated her remark. So she says, "Are you assuming that I didn't ask for permission?" The employee, with a frown and a tone of slightly subdued irritation, "Well, yeah." "Sharon, I did ask and was given permission." She mumbled a response, yet I knew I didn't feel satisfied with the interaction, so I said, "I would have felt much better if you had asked me about this instead of assuming I hadn't gotten permission." Even though she did not change her attitude, I walked out the door congratulating myself. Yes, I did it. I remembered to ask a question, and there she stood with egg on her face. Oops. As I heard my own thoughts, I realized I was relishing having won a power struggle. Despite feeling good about my effort to be clear instead of defensive, it was only in retrospect that I realized part of my intention had been to retaliate against her rude treatment and prove her wrong. So we all do this stuff. It's being as honest as we can be with ourselves. What's my motivation here? Am I wanting to walk away the victor? Am I wanting to feel like I showed her then we're still in that old game of us versus them, okay? Slowing our process down and questioning our motive before we speak can help us to shift into non-defensive mode. It is also useful to develop the habit of questioning ourselves afterward. Good morning, Mel. Glad you are here. A practice that creates awareness and helps promote future change. Such self-examination can be used with all three non-defensive tools: questions, statements, and predictions. So, here are some questions you can ask yourself to help you determine, am I still in the old battle mode? I want to win. I need to show them, blah, blah, blah. So here's some questions you can ask yourself. So I've got there's a section of asking yourself about your questions, asking yourself about your statements, and asking yourself about your predictions. So there's quite a few questions for each. But even if you only picked one of these from each category, it's only 3 questions you need to know and then question yourself about. So these are the questions to ask yourself about the questions you want to ask the other person. Is my question sincere? Is my question entrapping? Oh, good. I'm glad it's relevant for you. Totally relevant for me today. Absolutely. Is my question entrapping? And I think that's the one I'm going to pick. Do I really want to know the answer, or am I trying to prove my own point? That's an excellent question, too. Do I really want to know the answer, or am I trying to prove my own point? Do I think I already know the answer? If so, why am I asking the question? Do I think I already know the answer? If so, why am I asking the question? Do I load it with my own feelings? You know, if you ask a question, like let's go back to Sharon's question here of the person with the telephone issue. Are you assuming that I didn't ask for permission? If I say it that way, it comes across one way. If I say, are you assuming I didn't ask for permission? It comes across entirely different, doesn't it? So this whole book, this whole process of non-defensive communication has much to do with what's going on inside of us as it does with the actual words we put out to somebody. So that's why we want to be really monitoring what's going on in me as I'm asking this question. How does my tone sound? How does my tone sound? Was it neutral, or was it coaxing or attacking? Was it neutral? So that's what we're striving for, is a neutral tone. A neutral tone. Not easy to engineer sometimes when we've been lit up by a Christmas tree, right? You know, just someone says something, we're like, rawr, the claws come out. Yeah. Did my body language convey my feelings? Were you frowning? Were you shrugging? Were you leaning forward? Does your body language convey your feelings? Again, you're looking for neutrality, so you might want to settle back a little bit instead of coming forward, okay? Are there other questions that would elicit more information? Are there other questions I could ask that would elicit more information? So those are questions. Here's about statements. When you're querying yourself about your statements, oh my God, we all have a lot of work to do, dear. We all have a lot of work to do. Because again, our language, English, is a warlike language from the get-go. So we have a lot to work on. That's okay. We can do this. We can do hard stuff, right? Asking yourself about your statements. Have I tried to convince the other person to agree with me? If so, it's not a neutral statement. Have I tried to convince the other person to agree with me? Have I stated my opinion as fact? Well, you know, blah, 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 blah. As opposed to, well, I think, whatever. Am I hiding some of what I thought or felt? And hopefully you remember this from earlier in the book where she talked about when we're trying to win, we oftentimes leave out things, especially about our own state of being. Yep, I was kind of angry when I said that. You know, owning our own shit, all right? Am I hiding some of what I thought or felt? What else am I thinking and feeling? So again, you want to cast your net wide internally to get a sense of what else is going on with me. Okay? What am I thinking that I would not want the person to know? Because there's the dark side. There's your piece that you probably need to put out there. You know, I'm feeling kind of angry with you right now. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is. What am I thinking that I would not want the person to know? Am I stating the parts of my position that don't show vulnerability and hiding the parts that do? Am I stating the parts of my position that don't show vulnerability and hiding the parts that do? So perhaps we don't know something. We think we have this opinion, but we don't really know. Are we saying, well, I don't really know, but whatever. Good morning, Gwen. Am I expressing the part of my statement that shows my insecurity and hiding the part that clearly reveals my opinion? So are you waffling? Are you kind of, what's that called? Stockholm syndrome, where you sort of sidle up to the enemy in order to be okay. All right? Have I said what I hear the other person saying? So again, kind of an active listening sort of a thing. Am I feeding back what I've heard them say? Have I named what I see in the other person's body language or attitude that contradicts what I hear? So it could be well, I hear you saying this, but as I'm observing you, I'm noticing that your fists are clenched, or whatever it is, your jaw is tight. Am I pointing out the contradictions that I'm seeing? Have I shared my own insights and observations about the other person's reactions? And how have I shared my own insights about that? If you're lording it over them, it's not going to be well received. Have I stated my own thoughts and feelings? Well, here's where I'm coming from on this. Or even asking, would you like to hear what I think about this? Did I express my observations neutrally and confine my feelings to statements about my own experience? About my own experience. Yes, absolutely. So those are some questions you can ask yourself about your statements when you are making a statement. Here are the ones to ask yourself about your predictions. Now, the predictions, again, were what we were just talking about a bit ago. If you do this, I will do that. If you do this, here's what I think is going to happen. If you do this, blah, blah, blah. Okay? Asking yourself about your predictions. Am I using this prediction to threaten the other person into doing what I want? If you do that, I'm going to leave. You know. Am I trying to punish the other person for considering a choice I don't like? Well, you can do that, but I'm going to be very disappointed if you... Yeah. Am I wanting just to protect myself, or am I trying to control the other person? So, yes, we have the right to protect ourselves. If you hit me, I will leave. Or am I trying to control the other person? Okay? Is my goal simply to be treated with respect and maintain reciprocity, or is there something else I want? And if there's something else I want, it would be good to state it. Would be good to state it. Is my tone neutral or filled with my own feelings? Hurt, judgment, anger. Is my tone neutral? And again, we're going to have to work on the neutrality of our tone, because it's very easy to put something out there with the edge to it. So sometimes it's, give me 10 minutes and I'll be back and we can talk about this. And you leave and you get yourself together, and then you come back and you ask your question, make your statement, make your prediction. Okay? Am I feeling respectful of the other person's right to make an independent choice? Okay? Or am I feeling like I've got all the answers and they ought to listen to me? What is my body language like? Again, if I'm making my predictions with my hands on my hips, leaning forward with a frown, that's not very neutral. It's not very neutral. So again, hopefully you picked out one out of each one of those to ask yourself about your questions, about your statements, and about your predictions. right? Here's the last couple of paragraphs. Monitoring our internal process to keep our own intentions non-defensive is crucial. If, before speaking, we realize that we are not completely non-defensive, we can acknowledge feeling defensive to the other person. Well, I'm feeling kind of defensive, but I do want to make a statement, and I'm going to do my best to stay neutral here. You're spelling out what you're doing, okay? We can also simply continue to use the non-defensive format, knowing our intentions are not crystal clear. When I asked Rhonda what she meant when she compared what I was teaching to charm school, I clearly didn't feel totally non-defensive, but I forced myself to use a non-defensive format for the question. The value of what she did there was then when Rhonda answered her, she could see she had misinterpreted what Rhonda said altogether. All Rhonda was doing was stating how difficult it felt to her to learn this stuff. She wasn't saying this isn't important. She was saying this is hard for me. A more sincere and open conversation resulted. I don't subscribe fully to the saying, fake it until you make it, but many people have reported to me that just by using a non-defensive format, they could feel an internal shift settling into place, a shift that resulted in a sense of calm and freedom from the power struggle. Each step is important and leads to the next. I didn't do a top-notch job in the grocery store, but I did manage to ask a question instead of just defending myself, and state how I would prefer to be treated. With practice, the internal shift toward non-defensiveness begins to become more automatic. So that's our section for today. I think this was very timely, very spot on in terms of where things are at with people right now. Again, we've got this heightened stuff going on through early August that it's very easy to snap at somebody. If that happens, if you react, then take your step back. Yeah, you snapped. Okay, so now take your step back, regroup, see if you can first apologize for snapping. I'm sorry I snapped at you. Let me see if I can ask this question in a neutral way, and then give it your best shot. Ask a question, make a statement, make a prediction, okay? We're not going to be perfect at this. We are not in any way, shape, or form going to be perfect at this. Especially the part I think about releasing the outcome. We all have vested interests in things. And when I was talking about the Byron Katie stuff, she really has mastered releasing the outcome. Really has mastered releasing the outcome. Most of us need practice with that. Most of us need practice with that. So, that's what I would challenge you to do today. Spend some time examining what your intentions are. If you've had a couple of tussles with people lately, go back over them in your mind. What was my intention? What was my, good morning, Bonnie. We're just about done, but you can always watch the replay. It was a really good one today. We're doing Taking the War Out of Our Words, part of powerful non-defensive communication. So, but questioning ourselves, what was my intention when I asked that question? Yeah, it irritated him, or it frustrated her, or they snapped back, or whatever. But I'm going to examine my intention. Why did I ask it the way I asked it? How was my posture? Was I leaning forward? Was I crabby? How did I come across? How did I come across? One of the values of things like Zoom meetings, especially if they've been recorded, is if there was a little tussle in there, you can go back and watch it again from the curious observer perspective and go, oh yeah, my voice did go, no wonder she reacted, because I set the stage for her to react. So how could I go back and do that differently? Oftentimes it can just be taking the pause. Okay, thinking out loud here. Okay, Bonnie, before you react, take a breath. Nope, still not settled down. Okay, maybe I need to bide some time, so I'm going to run to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Go to the bathroom, throw some water on your face, look in the mirror, have a conversation with yourself. How can I approach this non-defensively? How can I be neutral in my response in a way that moves this conversation forward? Be willing to make mistakes. Be willing to screw it up. Be willing to be less than perfect. Again, as she just said at the end of this section, just using the non-defensive format, even if you're not feeling totally non-defensive, can move you in the right direction. All right? So let's get some practice out there. Have an awesome day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are. Bye.